Hi there everybody, how you all doing? This is MAW00001 with another review video for this week's DC Comics. I'm going to have to see if I can do a review video for other comics in DC, I think, because I don't know if anybody's getting bored with just seeing me rate and slate DC Comics or not, but I'll see what I can do. Anyway, this one isn't as late as it was last time. This is for the first week? Yes, the first week of November. So this is all number 3s from DC Comics. And as I always say in all my videos, please don't take my word for what these comics are like. Make up your own minds. If you want to buy the comics, regardless of what I say, pick them up yourself. And as always, we start off with what I think is the worst comic of the week. And are we really surprised with this? Do I really need to say what it is? Okay, I will. Hawk and Dove number 3. I'll give DC's their due. A lot of the comics that they've been bringing out at the moment have been getting better over the months. This is one of those ones that's actually been getting worse. Rob Liefeld's artwork is actually getting worse. And does the guy actually know how to draw a background? And why does everybody who's in the comics, why do they all look like they're constipated? It's... I suppose really I should sort of like take my parents' advice, and if I can't say anything nice, I shouldn't say anything at all. But that would make for a pretty boring video. So yeah, Hawk and Dove, no, stay clear, please. Next we have Green Arrow number 3, and yeah, the artwork's nice, and that's about as far as it goes. There's no story to this. There's no character development. It really is a non-runner. They should have kept with the way they were portraying Green Arrow in the previous series that they had before the reboot. I know it's a reboot. I know they're trying to reimagine the heroes and that, but a lot of these reimagining and reinventions and rebooting of these heroes just isn't working. And this is one of those ones where it really is not working for me. Like I said, the artwork is really nice, and that's the real big pity of it, because it's got such nice artwork, but it's just terrible storytelling. Absolutely terrible storytelling. Next is Static Shock. It's another one of those comics that isn't really going anywhere. Why DC keeps on bringing this character up, I don't know. Obviously, there's a fan base for him, and I think they could do a lot with this character, but it just seems that the writers they have on Static Shock nowadays haven't got a clue what the character's about, and it's just a very dull and boring comic, and even the artwork inside isn't that interesting. There are hundreds of better comics than this, and I really, unless DC changes the creative team on it, it's not going to go anywhere. Stormwatch. This was interesting. It was, it was an okay story, but it still feels to me like they're trying to shoehorn in the Wildstorm characters, and it's just not working. They're trying to force these characters. It's like trying to get a jigsaw puzzle, yeah, and trying to fit a piece of Lego into a jigsaw puzzle. It just is not happening for me. If they tried to say that this was a Wildstorm story, it would be enjoyable. It would be a really interesting story. But because they're trying to force this into the DC universe, it just isn't working, I'm afraid. Justice League International is really a big disappointment. the artwork in it's all right, but again, DC have, I think they've really dropped the ball on this one. It could have been such a really good comic, and it's not. Is basically the simplest thing I can say to this. Trying to think of something nice to say about it. The artwork's okay, but again, it just seems to be too forced. They're trying to force these characters into reboots, like they're doing with Green Arrow and Stormwatch, and it's just not working. It just doesn't seem to be working at all. Next we have Action Comics. This is actually getting better. Action Comics is getting a lot better as the months progress, but it still isn't Grant Morrison's best work, and it still feels like he is being stifled by somebody. He's being reined in. He's not allowed to go to his full potential. It's like, this is Superman, this is how we want Superman, and this is how we want you to portray Superman, and you can't deviate from that path. And it's a real big pity, because I reckon this comic book, if they let Grant Morrison have full reign on this comic book, then it would be probably the best comic book there. And if this is Grant Morrison's full reign on the comic book, hopefully he's going to let loose, and let loose soon. Men of War has dropped, in my opinion. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and I don't know what it wants to be. The best thing about this comic was the second story. I thought the second story was absolutely brilliant. The first story, I didn't know where I was with it. I was completely lost. It had nothing to do, from what I could tell, with the previous issue or the first issue. And like I said, I have no idea whether this is supposed to be a war comic, whether it's supposed to be a superhero comic, whether it's supposed to be a supernatural comic. And it is, because of that, I'm even thinking about dropping it after this issue. I might stay with issue 4, but it's just really confusing. They should have put the second story as the first one, in my view, on this. Batwing. I am actually warming to this comic. But there is still something missing from this comic, and it's one of the, again, it's one of those things that I just can't put my finger on why I'm still not that sold on this comic book. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. It's painted artwork inside, absolutely gorgeous. And the story is a real, it is quite an interesting story, but there's one thing missing, and I just can't think what that one thing is. And that's why it's still not in the best comics that DC are producing at the moment. Still good, but not great. OMAC. And after last month's second issue, this one has come right back into my top 5 comics of the week. Does anybody remember the British artist Shaky Kane? I think I remember that's his name. He used to do artwork for the magazine Revolver in the UK, and a few bits and pieces of 2000 AD as well. There are some elements in some drawings in this comic that remind me so much of Shaky Kane. It's it's his way outness of drawing in that. Excuse me a minute. Still trying to get over a cold. The story is crash bang wallop, action all the way, but it is an enjoyable story. Go get it if you haven't got it. Detective Comics is getting better, a lot better. There's a real feel of horror in this comic, Whether it's supposed to be or not, I don't know. But there is a lot of, I would say, I don't know. I want to say Saw-like horror, as in the movie Saw, but also with the sort of like the amalgamation of body parts and that on this, I would also say it was quite sort of similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well. You know, this is actually becoming quite a horror comic in my view. The artwork's fantastic. Not too sure what's going on with the cover, but yeah, by the by. But yeah, Detective Comics, brilliant comic. You should be picking it up. Red Lanterns, and come on, that's a gorgeous cover, don't you think? Don't you think that's an absolutely gorgeous cover? And the story inside and the artwork inside just follows on from that cover. It is a brilliant story. Again, it's, I would imagine how most people would react if they had the chance to exact revenge on somebody that they wanted to exact revenge on. You know, if somebody done them something seriously bad or seriously wrong in their life. This is an absolutely brilliant comic. It is one of the best Lantern comics out there, I think. A lot better than Green Lantern, and on a par with, in my opinion, on a par with the New Guardians as well. Absolutely fantastic. If you're not picking up Red Lanterns, please, you should be. And Swamp Thing, it's just fantastic. The artwork in it's amazing. You know, it's the only thing that's holding this back is that I still feel, and you know, I'm sure a lot of people out there are, I still feel that Alan Moore was the quintessential Swamp Thing writer. And I think it's really sad because that's the only reason why this comic isn't number one at the moment. Other than that, other than the number one comic is just outstanding. Uh, it's a really, really good comic. I absolutely love it. If you're not reading Swamp Thing, you should be reading Swamp Thing. I think Swamp Thing should be at least in the top 10 of the comic book charts, definitely. And I don't think anybody's going to be too surprised with what number one is. It's Animal Man. Come on, if you're not reading this by now, what is wrong with you? This comic is just amazing. It's coming to a point where it could even be surpassing Grant Morrison's take on Animal Man. It is just the writing in it is fantastic. The artwork just jumps, not jumps, oozes. The artwork just oozes off the page. You know, it is a fantastic comic. I really can't. You know, words fail me for how great this comic book is. If you're not reading this comic, you really should be, because it is one of the best comics out there at the moment. Blows most of what DC Comics is doing out of the water at this time, and yeah, just brilliant. Well, there you go. That's my review for this week's DC number threes. Sorry about all the coughing and spluttering. I I thought I got rid of this cold. Obviously, I was wrong. Uh, yeah. Thank you for watching. Please don't take my word for it with these comics. Make up your own mind. If you want to read these comics, if you want to take my word for it and you want to pick up Animal Man and Swamp Thing, because I'm saying they're the best comics out there at the moment, thank you very much. Thank you. But if you want to read any of the other comics, feel free to do so. Because, as I always say, my opinion is my opinion, and your opinion is your opinion. Right, well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you soon. Ta-ta for now.